Hello everyone and welcome to the Anime Zillion. Thank you for joining me as we go over episode 2 of the God of High School anime series. But before I do, I just want to say, yes, I may have been a little bit critical of the first episode in my episode 1 review. I now understand what the episode was trying to do, which was to grab the attention of the audience, as in us as the viewer, through the great animation and fluidity of the fights and just how it overall structured. It wasn't going more on story basis, it was going more on, look, this is what you're going to expect, big fights, flashy animation, and all things explosive. And they certainly did that. The animation last week was flawless. And I just thought I'd mention it because I still stand by what I said in my last episode review. I was still not as happy with the episode as I thought I would be when I went in to go and watch it. However, this time, it corrects a few of those things that I had issues with. So then, episode 2. Episode 2 was a fantastic episode with a lot of explosive action and some really interesting backstory. Also, something that I was a bit upset about last week that was left out of episode 1 was the core 3 characters' backstories. This, of course, being Mori, Mira and Deawi. But this episode, it corrects that because we get the reasons as to why they entered the God of High School tournament. So, let's go through them. Mori, he just wants to fight strong opponents. And obviously this tournament will allow him to do just that. And plus, it looks like he got a bit of a beating from the executive that kind of invited him to join the tournament. Which again, they teased out last week because they had that whole scene where he was looking up at the booth and he was like, that's the guy I want to fight. I thought that was pretty cool. Doesn't tell us a lot. It still didn't explain like the whole reason as to why Mori prefers to use punches on weaker opponents and kicks for stronger opponents. But again, they can always elaborate on that a little bit further. So, not going to take issue with that. Deawi. So, this doesn't give us much in the way of how or why he wants to kind of do the tournament. Unless you piece the pieces together. It shows us images, realistically, of who invited him, that being the green-haired executive that we see with the cards and it's always smoking, and it seems like he's visiting somebody in the hospital. So we could kind of from that confer or kind of think up the reason as to why he's joining this tournament is so that he can get, I don't know, prize money for hospital bills or to get his friend cured of something. The anime hasn't told us, but if you read the webtoons then you'll know the reasoning. Yes, this scene wasn't as impactful as it was in the webtoon version, but again, it was still a really good piece of story writing because it gives us enough information to be able to piece our own thoughts and our own sort of speculations on his reasoning while still keeping us invested and wanting to know more. It's also worth noting that Deawi was also interested in the nanotech kind of healing that we saw at the start of the episode, and that could also add to the pieces of information that we get given about his backstory and kind of elaborate on what his motivation could possibly be. So again, I think that was pretty good. It was a good use of skills and timing that they gave off to kind of give us that detail to make us speculate, but then obviously make us want more. Good job. Maria's backstory revolves around her wanting to continue the sword style that she currently possesses. And she's looking for a strong successor to pair with herself to kind of have that someone to pass on her swordman teachings. And I was a bit upset with the fact they didn't mention her wanting to look for a good seed like they do in the webtoon series, because that's kind of like a good funny thing. And the comment section of those chapters where they kept mentioning it always made me laugh. But I understand why they chose not to. It's a little bit inappropriate, but at the same time, I would like to have seen a little mention of it, but oh well. And we get to see just how much she cares for her sword as we get some really impactful scenes with her and her weapon. We have some music that makes the scene like really impactful, and that music is brilliant, and it pairs with Maria's reactions of her having her sword taken away / being touched. It pairs nicely towards that as well, and just the expressions and reactions she has is totally justified. Because her father gave it to her. Her father passed that sword down to her so that she could find someone and keep her teachings alive. I thought that was really nice. It's like a sentimental value and it adds some Maria's character and makes her a bit more kind of more interesting and more unique. However, seeing that, her manly, scary face that Maria sometimes pulls in a webtoon series is still prevalent in the anime was really cool. And it's been a while since I've seen it, so that did put a smile on my face once I saw it. So this opening segment of the episode was really great for showing off the characters' reasoning and backstories, but it also had a multi-focus to the beginning of this episode, as it also helps us show off the core three characters' chemistry and them growing closer together as friends, which is also a good thing in of itself. I found that to be kind of a nice character building moment for each three characters. I wouldn't say they're at the level of friendship yet, but we see that growth and that connection slowly forming, which is always good. And the second half of the episode was the action. We get the fights. We get to see all these fights and the flashy, strong characters being shown in a very flashy way. Animation quality here was really good and consistent, which is something that's been prevalent with this episode, is that consistent animation. But the main focus of this second part, so the main matcha focus, was the gang versus Gombo? I think that's how you pronounce his name. These two fighters are no pushovers. Gombo, basically, he focuses more around the Tai Chi type of fighting style, while Gang focuses on North style Taekwondo, which seems a lot more kind of aggressive style of fighting than, say, Mori Jin's Taekwondo that he uses. And he goes as far as even pulling his opponent's hair in this, so I guess, it is quite an aggressive, brutal fighting style, that being Northern Taekwondo. So I thought that was pretty cool. As for the fight, it was actually a really, really good fight. And although Gombo actually put up a good fight in showing off his techniques after techniques, but then he fell. It wasn't really a bad thing that he lost, because he displayed some very respectable resolve in not wanting to give up or admit defeat, which got me rooting for this character and maybe wanting him to make a comeback, but alas, that did not happen. One thing that really did surprise me about this whole end segment though, was the backstory for Gang's character. I really wasn't expecting this episode to tell me his backstory. At first, we saw glimpses of it, like him sort of down on his knees begging. So it basically told us that the bully, or the bullied, was becoming the bully. We have this character that we're sort of teased at as being stronger than this current character in Gang, who is also this kind of pinnacle of strength at the moment within the series. So it makes us go, oh, well, if this character before that manages to make this guy, who is also strong, beg for his own sort of safety, then that other guy must be super strong, even though he looks pretty weak in the flashback. But then we do also see another character while they're giving us more backstory for Gang's character. And correct me if I'm wrong, without spoiling anything for the anime only fans in the comments, but you can let me know, is it too early to be seeing this character? Because to my knowledge, this character appears way, way later in the webtoon series, and I don't actually remember having the backstory this early on. Again, it could be a small change that they did to make Gang's character more kind of appealing, but at the same time, I liked it, but I was just a little bit confused. There were a few changes from the original webtoon series to the anime adaptation, like they changed the president, which again, is understandable because the president has changed at this moment in time, and who wants to put Trump in that? Who wants to put Trump in an anime series? Apart from Simpsons. Moving on. And the lights that Deawi uses when they're underneath the bridge looking for Maria's sword. It wasn't a big issue that they changed that, it was just a bit of comedy that they missed out. I understand why they did it. It's a lot easier to kind of draw up lights than it is to draw a whole gang of motorbikers with lights on. It's fine. Budget. They put the animation budget into more consistent fights and more fluidity in the fights, and I appreciate that. Anyways, with that being said, this episode has some fantastic animation, some of the best I've seen for a long time in any series. I especially like the triple kick from Mori Jin on Gang. There were other great moments as well, with the animation being a highlight. Some brilliant storytelling and focus, and I really did enjoy this episode much more than I did the first episode. I think because it was being the first episode of the season and me just getting into the webtoon series, I was kind of a little bit not really liking this because it's a bit too different. But now I'm looking at it with an open mind and I'm actually liking it a lot more. This episode was in fact better than the first one from my personal perspective, but at the same time, I'm just taking it with a pinch of salt. But it was a brilliant episode nevertheless. I want to know what you think though, down in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Do you think there's something coming big in the future? Obviously, if you're a reader of the series, don't spoil it for anybody. But at the same time, let's have a chat down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new so you never miss a video from me. And until next time, I hope you have, alligator, mutt in it. Goodbye.